Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to my channel, Creative Grandma. Today's crochet tutorial is for the Blaze blanket. This blanket measures 45 by 55 inches and it only requires a 2-row repeat. So fun to do, it stitches up quickly with a big hook. So let me tell you everything you're going to need to make this blanket today. For our project today, I'm using the Mary Maxim Marvelous Chunky. This yarn comes in a 270 yard, 250 meter, 100% acrylic, 200 grams, 7-ounce skein. It does say it's machine washable and dryable, but pay attention to the care instructions. You're supposed to wash using gentle, delicate cycle for 2 minutes, tumble dry using low heat for a maximum of 5 minutes. Remove and lay flat to dry. Do not dry clean. Now this is classified as a number 5 bulky weight yarn, and the color I'm using today is called Rockin' Red. This is color Y189-8137. A beautiful warm shade of red with mixed colors throughout. You're going to need 8 skeins of the Marvelous Chunky in the color of your choice, and I'll put a link in the description box. You can click that link and see what other colors they have available, or you can use any number 5 bulky weight yarn. But just take the yardage of 270 yards times 8, and that gives you the yardage you're going to need to make this Afghan. Now the 8th skein, you won't use the whole entire skein, you'll just use a small portion of it. So again, you're going to need 8 skeins of the Mary Maxim Marvelous Chunky in the color of your choice. You're also going to need 2 different size crochet hooks. I'm using a US size M as in Mike, 13 or 9 millimeter, and this is the hook we're using to make the actual Afghan. And then we drop our hook size down to a US size K 10.5 or 6.5 millimeter hook to do the border. So 2 different size hooks for this project. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, and let's get this project started. To begin our project, I already have my yarn attached to my hook and I just used a double knot. You can use whichever method you prefer to join your yarn. Now I am using a metal crochet hook size M13 or 9 millimeter. If you have a plastic hook, it's a little easier on your hand because this hook does get very heavy after a while. To begin, we're going to chain 100. You're going to yarn over the hook and pull it through the loop. This creates your first chain. The loop on your hook does not count as a chain. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continue until you have 100 chains, and I'll be back and we'll start row 1. I'm back. I have my chain and I have 100 chains made. Now this is where you should always do a double stitch count and make sure you have the correct amount of chains. So you should have a total of 100 chains, and you can count them very easily. 1, 2, 3, you can see the stitches, and just make sure you have 100 chains. So now we're ready to begin row 1, and row 1 we're going to be working in what they call the back bump of the chain. So this is the front side of your work, and when you turn it over, you're going to see this horizontal strand of yarn going right through the center of the chain. So you're going to see 3 loops. The top loop, the center loop, and the bottom loop. We're going right into the center loop of each chain across. So let's begin row 1. You're going to skip that first chain. You're going to go to the second chain, turn your chain over, insert under that horizontal strand of yarn right in the center of the chain, and work your single crochet. Yarn over, pull through that chain. You have 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made a single crochet. Now this crochet tutorial is filmed using USA crochet terms. Now you're going to go to your next chain and then it will want to turn over because you're working on the back, and then you can see those back bumps. So go to the next chain, turn your chain over, insert into that center horizontal strand of yarn right in the center of the chain, and work your single crochet. And we're just going to repeat that across. Go to your next chain, flip your chain over, insert under that horizontal strand of yarn in the center of the chain, work a single crochet. Let's do it again. Go to your next chain, flip your chain over, and then insert under that horizontal strand right in the middle of the chain, work your single crochet. I'll show you one more time. Go to your next chain, flip your chain over to the wrong side, insert under that horizontal strand right in the center, and work a single crochet. So go ahead and continue. You're going to work one single crochet into the back horizontal bar of each chain across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. I'm over at the end of row 1. This is what your work should look like. You should have a total of 99 single crochet stitches. And when you work in the back bump, look how nice it forms the bottom edge. When you work the border, you're going to be able to find your stitches so easy when you work in that back bump. So again, we're over at the end of row 1, and row 1 is classified as the wrong side of your work. So odd numbers will be the wrong side, and even numbers will be the right side of your work. So now we're ready to begin row 2. To begin row 2, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. We're going to skip this beginning chain 1 and we're going to work a single crochet into this first stitch. So you're going under the top 2 loops and work a single crochet. Now we're going to start our repeat. You're going to chain 1. You're going to skip that next stitch, insert into the next stitch, and work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. And if you're not sure where your stitches are, all you have to do is pull slightly and you're going to see those stitches open right up. So let's do the repeat again. You're going to chain 1. You're going to skip the next stitch, insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. That is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. Let's do it one more time together. You're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, insert into the next stitch, and work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. You're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, insert into the next stitch, and work a single crochet. Repeat that down your length until you get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end of row 2. I'm over at the end of row 2. This is what your work should look like. You can see where we chained 1, skipped a stitch, single crocheted in the next stitch, and you ended your last repeat in the very last stitch. Now, if you're new to crocheting, I did forget to say put a stitch marker in your very last stitch and then go back to the beginning of your work and put a stitch marker in that very first stitch of the row, and then as you're working back and forth you can tell where your last stitch is going to be and where your first stitch of the next row will be. So again, row 2 is finished, and now we're ready to begin row 3. Row 3, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. We're going to skip the beginning chain 1. We're going to insert into that very first stitch under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Now we're ready to begin our repeat. We're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch 2 rows below, but we're going behind the chain 1 space. You're going to bring your hook in behind the chain 1 space, grab that stitch under the top 2 loops to work your stitch, and then you work your next stitch a single crochet into the top of this next single crochet stitch. So let's go ahead and start our repeat. You're going to yarn over, go to your next stitch, which is a chain 1, and you're going to take your hook behind the chain 1 space, go from back to front underneath that chain 1 space, and then just turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of that stitch below. Yarn over, pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. You just made a double crochet. And then when you look at your work, your chain 1 is going to be in front of that stitch. You're not working in that chain 1, so you're just still going to have that chain 1 space in front of that double crochet. And then we're going to single crochet into the next stitch on the top current row. So go to your next stitch, insert under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it a couple more times together. You're going to yarn over the hook, bring your hook from back to front underneath the chain 1 space, turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of that single crochet stitch below, and then work your double crochet. Yarn over, pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Again, you're not working over that chain 1. You're going to see that your stitch is behind the chain 1 space, and your chain 1 space is loose in front of that stitch. Then you're going to single crochet into the top of the next stitch on the top current row. Insert under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook from back to front underneath the chain 1 space, turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of the stitch below, 2 rows below, and then work your double crochet. Go to your next stitch on the top current row, insert under the top 2 loops, and work a single crochet. So I'll do it one more time with you. Again, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook from back to front underneath that chain 1 space, turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of the stitch below, 2 rows below, work your double crochet. And then single crochet into the next stitch on the top current row. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. You're going to double crochet behind the next chain 1 space, working into the stitch below, work your double crochet. Then you're going to single crochet into the top of the next stitch on the top current row. You're going to continue and repeat that pattern across to the end of the row, and if you need additional help, just click back on the video and watch how I do it, where I say this is the start of the repeat, work until I say this is the end of the repeat, continue across to the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end of row 3. I'm over at the end of row 3. This is what your work should look like, and you should have ended your last repeat with your single crochet in that very last stitch. So row 3 is finished, and now we're ready to begin row 4. For row 4, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. We're going to skip the beginning chain 1, insert into that very first stitch under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Now we're ready to begin our repeat. You're going to chain 1, you're going to skip that next double crochet, insert into the next single crochet under the top 2 loops, work your single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Very simple repeat. Let's do it again. Chain 1, skip that next double crochet stitch, insert into the next single crochet stitch, work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Chain 1, skip the next double crochet, and single crochet into the next single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. Chain 1, skip the next double crochet, insert into the next single crochet, and work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. You're going to chain 1, skip the next double crochet, and then single crochet into the next single crochet stitch. So go ahead and continue and repeat that down to the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end of row 4. I'm over at the end of row 4. We just chained 1, skip that next double crochet, and single crocheted into the top of the next stitch, and you ended that repeat with a single crochet into the very last stitch. And again, if you're new to crocheting, make sure you're moving those stitch markers up at the first and last stitch of each row. So now we're ready to do row 5. For row 5, we're going to chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. You're going to skip the beginning chain 1, insert into that very first stitch under the top 2 loops, work your single crochet. So now we're ready to do our repeat. We're going to be working a double crochet into the next stitch 2 rows below. So you're going to yarn over the hook, insert your hook from back to front under the chain 1 space, and then you want to turn your hook and go under the top 2 loops of that stitch below, 2 rows below, 1, 2. Make sure you're grabbing both of those top 2 loops. Work your double crochet. Yarn over, pull back through that stitch. You have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now you're going to end the repeat by working a single crochet into the next stitch, which is a single crochet on the top current row. Going under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Let's do it again. You're going to yarn over. You're going to insert your hook from back to front under the chain 1 space. Turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of that stitch below the chain 1 space. And then work your double crochet. Then you're going to single crochet into the next stitch on the top current row. And that is the end of the repeat. So let's do it one more time. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook underneath from back to front under the chain 1 space, turn that hook, and then grab the top 2 loops of the stitch below, and then work your double crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch on the top current row, and that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and continue. You're going to yarn over, you're going to insert from back to front under the next chain 1 space, turn your hook and grab the top 2 loops of the stitch below, and work your double crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch on the top current row. Repeat that across to the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end of row 5. I'm over at the end of row 5. This is what your work should look like. You should have ended your last repeat with a single crochet into that last stitch. So now to continue working on your Afghan, for row 6 through 131, you're going to repeat row 4 and row 5 a total of 63 more times. So if you need additional help, just keep clicking back on the video to row 4, Begin at row 4 and follow it through to the end of row 5, and you're just going to do that a total of 63 more times. So again, to continue working on your Afghan for rows 6 through 131, you're going to repeat row 4 and row 5 a total of 63 more times. I'll meet you at the end of row 131. I'm over at the end of row 131. You're on the wrong side of your work, and you just done your last repeat of row 5 with a single crochet in that last stitch. So when you did your last repeat row, you were working rows 4 and 5. You end with row 5 and you end on the wrong side of your work. So you should be over at the end of row 131. So this is what the Afghan looks like. Again, it's on the wrong side. It's really large, so I cannot get the whole entire Afghan in the viewfinder. And now we're ready to do our last row, row 132 of our Afghan, then we'll start the border. So we're going to begin and we're going to chain 1, and you want to turn your work. We're going to skip the beginning chain 1, insert into that very first stitch under the top 2 loops, and work a single crochet. Single crochet into that next double crochet. You're going into the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next single crochet, and then you just work 1 single crochet into the next double crochet, 1 single crochet into the next single crochet. So we're working 1 single crochet in each stitch across. Again, you're going to single crochet into that next double crochet stitch, going under the top 2 loops, and then single crochet into the next single crochet under the top 2 loops. You're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 132. I'm over at the end of row 132. Again, the Afghan is way too big to get it in the viewfinder. You just worked 1 single crochet in each stitch across. You should have a total of 99 single crochet stitches across your last row. So now we are done with the center of our Afghan. So I'm just going to fasten off my yarn, and I like to leave a longer length just because I use a yarn needle and I like to have that extra length. You're going to chain 2, pull your hook up, yarn out, grab, pinch, and pull down, and it creates a secure knot. And then you can take this end and you can weave it in and out through the stitches and then come back through, and if you have enough yarn, then go back through a 3rd time, and it really helps secure your ends when you do that more than once through the back of your stitches. So you're on the right side of your work, and now we're ready to begin our border. So we're not going to turn our work, we're going to keep it right on the right hand side. And the way you can tell is because your double crochets are on the top of your work where you can see them puffed out. And then the back of your work is going to have a smoother finish. So you want to make sure you keep it on the right side where your double crochet stitches are on the top of your work. And we're going to go back over to the beginning of our last row, row 132. So do not turn your work, just take your Afghan. You're just going to go back over to the beginning of row 132, and then we're going to rejoin our yarn into this very first single crochet stitch. And you need to drop your hook size down to a size K 10.5 or 6.5 millimeter. Now, the reason I drop my hook size down is because when I use a really big hook, and when you wash and dry these Afghans, I don't want my Afghan to get distorted by the large stitches. So I like to use a smaller hook size for my border stitches, which helps pull these stitches together a little bit and helps keep the shape of the Afghan. But it's all up to you. If you use a bigger hook, then sometimes it makes it too full for your border and you're going to get ruffles. So we're going to go ahead and insert into that first stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch through that stitch and through the loop on my hook to attach my yarn. And then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and this beginning chain 3 will count as my first double crochet. We're going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch across to the next corner. Yarn over, insert into the next stitch, work a double crochet. Now if you're a real tight crocheter, you might have to bump up to a size L hook. Double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and I'm going under the top 2 loops, double crochet into the next stitch, and then you're going to continue and work 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the next corner. I'm over at my first corner of round 1 of our border. We just worked 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and I'm in the very last stitch right at the corner. So now to do our corner, we're going to work 3 more double crochet all in the same stitch as the last stitch made. So the last stitch across, work 3 more double crochet. That's 1, 2, and 3. So when you look at your work, you're going to have a total of 4 double crochet in that last stitch across. Now we're just going to swing our work around, and we're going to be working down the length of our Afghan, and we're going to be working in each row end stitch down the length. So if you're afraid of borders and you've never done one before, this is a very simple border. And if you're not sure where to put your hook, you can just tug on your work. This is the first row end stitch. Here's the second row end stitch, and you can see how it opens up, and you're going to see the opening to each row down the length. So for the very first row end stitch, I'm going right down through the center of that single crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert right down through the center of that stitch, and work your double crochet. Working down the rest of the length of the Afghan, I'm just going in the opening and around the stitch. Double crochet into the next row end stitch, double crochet into the next row end stitch, and again, if you just pull slightly, you're going to see those row end stitches. Double crochet into the next row end stitch, double crochet into the next row end stitch, continue and work 1 double crochet in each row end stitch down the length to the next corner, and I'll meet you there. Of our border, we just worked 1 double crochet in each row end stitch down to the corner, and you should have 1 double crochet into that last stitch. So now to work the corner, we're just going to swing our work around, and we're going to start into this first stitch across the bottom of that foundation row. To begin across the foundation row, you're going to see here is your first stitch. Very easy to see these stitches since we went into that back bump. You can see that teardrop shape of each stitch across. So in the first stitch, we're going to start and work 4 double crochet. Yarn over, insert under the top 2 loops of that first stitch going across the bottom of the Afghan, work 4 double crochet. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you look at your work, all 4 stitches are going to be into that first stitch across the bottom of the Afghan. So now we're ready to continue across the bottom. You're going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch across. You want to go under those top 2 loops, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, continue and work 1 double crochet in each stitch across until you get to your next corner, and I'll meet you there. I'm over at my next corner. I finished by working 1 double crochet in each remaining stitch across, and I ended with 1 double crochet into that last stitch. So now to end this side of the Afghan, we're going to work 3 more double crochet into that same stitch as the last stitch worked. Yarn over, insert back into that last stitch, and work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So when you look at your work, you're going to have a total of 4 double crochet into that last stitch. Now, our last side of our Afghan, we're just going to spin our work around, and we're going to work 1 double crochet in each row end stitch down the length, and it's going to be the same as the other side. If you just pull, let me get this end out of the way, if you just pull slightly, those row ends are going to open up. Here's a row end, here's a row end, and you can see them very easily. Double crochet into the first row end stitch, double crochet into the next row end stitch, double crochet into the next row end stitch, double crochet into the next row end stitch, and then continue and work 1 double crochet in each row end stitch down the length to your next corner, and I'll meet you there. I'm over at my last corner. We just worked 1 double crochet in each row end stitch down the length, and I worked my last double crochet into the last row end stitch, and then you can see here is my beginning chain 3. So what we're going to do is, because the beginning chain 3 is in the top of this last row end stitch right here, we're just going to go ahead and work 3 more double crochet into this same space as our beginning chain 3, or the last stitch. So yarn over, insert into that same last row end stitch, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. So when you look at your work, you're going to have a total of 4 double crochet in that last row end stitch. And then we're just going to count up 1, 2, 3 to the top of that beginning chain 3, insert your hook into the top of that chain, and then slip stitch through that chain and through the loop on your hook. So round 1 of our border is finished, our Afghan is finished, and now we just need to fasten off. Now when I fasten off, I like to leave a nice long length because I like to really secure that end in on the back side. So chain 2, 1, 2, pull your hook up, yarn out, grab, pinch, pull down, and it makes a secure knot. So I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm going to weave in all my ends on the wrong side. Now you want to make sure that you're on the wrong side of your work when you weave in your ends. And what I like to do is I thread this on a yarn needle, and then I'll pull this down through this stitch and come down to the base of this row. I'll weave it in and out through the base of the stitches. I'll skip one strand of yarn, weave it back through, skip one strand of yarn, and then I weave it back through a third time, and then you can clip it off. So do that with all your ends. I'm going to weave in my ends, and I'll be back and I'll show you the finished afghan. Our afghan is finished. This is what the final afghan looks like. I want to thank everyone for stopping by today and crocheting with me. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of the crochet fun here on Creative Grandma's channel. So until next time, stay inspired and happy crocheting, everyone.